So church is not just for pampering and encouragement. Sometimes you hear things you don't want to hear. Sometimes you hear things that nobody else can tell you. Nobody else can tell you. When you find somebody who is misbehaving in society, who is a Christian, who is doing something that they are not supposed to be doing, check them. Usually they don't go to church. Sometimes, if you have real, genuine problems, and for 3 months you sit in the church. In fact, what I'm saying can be against myself, but I like to say what if it's truth, it's truth. I'll say it. You are in a church for 3 months or 6 months. You are going through a challenge, or let's say even say 1 year. You're going through a challenge, and your church is not even addressing your problem in terms of the kind of word that you get, in terms of the corrections and the values that you get. Then maybe you're not in the right church. Maybe you're not in the right church. And that leads me to my next thing. Everybody has a church that is meant for them. There's a church for everybody. One time like that, years ago, I can't remember, but over 13, 14 years ago, I walked up to, I was serving in the University of Benin. And God told me, go and start a fellowship in that campus. I was a copper. I was not a student. So I wanted to start this Saturday churches. So one of the persons I walked up to was that he said, before you can get registered in the University of Benin, you must go to the Dean of Student Affairs. They must register your fellowship so that you can now have full-fledged recognition and things like that. When I was trying to move around and asking for people and directions and speak to people, somebody accosted me and said, why do you want to start another church? Sorry, why do you want to start a new fellowship? There are many fellowships everywhere. So why are you starting to start something different? There's RCF, there's so, there's so, there's so. Same way people ask this moment and say, why is God calling pastors? Why are people saying God called me? Where God called me? There is Redeem. There is Winners. There is Assemblies of God. There is Foursquare. There is House on the Rock. There is the Elevation Church. There is Hill City Church. There is Global Harvest Church. There is all kinds, Global Impact Church. There are churches everywhere. There is the Heritage Church. Why are you trying to start something different? This is my quick answer, everybody. Please listen. There are different kinds of people in the world. And we don't have enough pastors to attend to the needs of all these 6 billion people. God calls people and gives them a unique call, even though they are all going to lead people to Christ, but there is something different about everybody's calling that can attract different kinds of people. If you fail to listen to God's calling and obey God's calling on your life, there will be certain hundreds or thousands of people outside in Nigeria or outside in your nation that will never go to another church until you accept that call. Every time they go to another church, they don't feel like I'm home. And that's why I believe, there are certain kind of people that I expect in this church who are not even here yet. And I'm being factual. There are certain kind of people that I expect, that I trust God to bring into the church that are not here yet. But one day I sat down and I said, I was just meditating, I was complaining and talking to God. And a word just came to me. I said to him, all the people I have brought to you are all the people that you need right now. And those people that you are thinking about, all these people, if you teach them correctly and consistently, they will become the people that you are talking about. You don't necessarily have to bring them from outside. These people can become your mighty men like David. But if I, as a pastor, in my day one, people start coming and I say, hey, somebody came here. Oh, Dinu, you're a man and you're making your hair. I feel like, what? No, this is not your church. And I say, no. You don't do that. Get out of this church. You have lost one member. It's gone forever. Then somebody else comes and is behaving in a very nonsense way. I feel like, why are you like this? You know those people I talked about the other day? You come to church and you're doing like you're pulling down your skirt. And I say, No. Get out of my church. And you get out. You have lost another member. Because what I'm saying essentially is, there is a way God built these systems. This local church we're talking about. Every local church is different and unique and can attract different kinds of people. You need to know where God has assigned you. You need to know as a church member, that's what I'm saying. Responsibility of the church member to the church. You need to know if you are a member, you are supposed to be a member of this church or not. So everybody has to reevaluate. As I'm coming to this church, as Pastor Shara is talking to me, am I really supposed to be here? Last time I did this was like 3 years ago. And I was like, as I did it 3 years, I was saying, am I not going to lose members? No, I didn't lose members. I added more members to it. Praise God. So I'm not going to be afraid again to say so. Because say the truth, it will help you. It means that if you realize at some point that this is not my church and you find your church, you'll be better in your church than being here. Do you realize that? You're better in your church than being here. Because God called different pastors to different people. How do you know if you are in the wrong church or not? Number one is your spiritual growth is capped. You have plateaued for a long time. So you were growing and at some point you stopped growing. And you also want to ask yourself, is it that I stopped growing because I stopped listening, I stopped studying? Or I am trying to learn, I'm trying to know, but what is coming out is no longer growing me. At that point, you can now reevaluate. Maybe I have outgrown my church. It's possible to outgrow a church. Praise God. It's possible to outgrow a church. And the answer is simple. Why are you here? You probably outgrow your church and you came here. Praise God. Simple. I was not always a pastor. I was not born a pastor. I was a member of a church too. So at some point, you can actually outgrow your church, but you need to know why you are leaving that church. So if your spiritual growth has plateaued, it has capped, and for no fault of yours, you are not growing anymore. Maybe you are now in the wrong church. Maybe it's time to move to a new church. And then you need to prayerfully do so. Because I believe something very strongly. Your church should not be the closest church building to you. Your church should not be the closest church building to you. So, I go to where church do you go to? I go to that church. I say, no, it's just not family. I just cross and I go there. No, that's not how we pick a church. We pick a church where we can be blessed. So, it doesn't matter how far that church is. If it is your church, you find your way there. Remember how I used to go from Ikorodu to Oregon? That was my church at that point. My wife would go from Ikorodu to Yaba. That was our church at that point. I know somebody who will go from here to Lekki. That was our church at that point. So, it's not about, it's far. No. Where is God saying, I have planted you? There is nothing like a church member knowing why they are going to church. Find out if that church is for you. And another way you will know if you are in the wrong church is that one is that you are not growing for no fault of yours, you are not growing. Number two is that everything that comes out from leadership, from the authority of the church, you always find a reason to complain, to rebel, to go against, to castigate. So you are not submitted to that authority. If you cannot submit to the authority of a church, then that church will not bless you. So you have to find a place. You have to find a place. Find where you believe. So, for instance, I know somebody who, this is their own nature. In fact, more than one person. I know like 2 or 3. Once they are older than you, they believe that you can't know more than them. You understand? So they like pastors who are older than them. So they will only be in churches where the pastor is Ancient of Days. Praise God. But we all understand that it's not always like that. So if you are that kind of person where you find it difficult to, who is this self? Who is this? His own is too much. Then maybe it's not your church. So you don't waste time. And you don't waste that person's time as well. You find another church. Praise God. All right. Last point this morning. Let me see if I've not forgotten anything. Yeah, okay, there's something I need to talk about. So you find it difficult to obey. Then number 3 is that every time you come to church, rather than go back encouraged and fired up, you always feel drained. You're always going on with low battery. Low battery. Every Sunday, not 1 or 2 Sundays. Every Sunday you come back, go home, you feel wasted, drained. You need to find a new place where you can. Archbishop Ben said, someone said this. He said that if your church does not change you, then you need to change your church. If your church is not changing you, maybe it's time to change your church. My last submission this morning in under 5 minutes is that what is my responsibility to my local church? What is my responsibility to my local church? What is my responsibility to my local church? I have just 5. Not very exhaustive, but I'm just going to drop 5 with you this morning. Number 1 is this. If you say you're a member of a church, then you must pray for that church. Pray for our growth. Pray for our increased influence. Pray that your church will grow and that the influence will grow and expand. It's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to pray for your church, to pray for the expansion, to pray for the expansion. What's my second responsibility to my local church? Get involved in every way possible. Get involved in every way possible. Become a volunteer. Become a worker. Become a volunteer. That's what we're asking. You cannot be a church member for years and not step up. No. Everybody has to step up at one point or the other. Step up. Step up. So you've been sitting for a long time. At some point you stand up and say, how can I serve other people? How can I serve other people? It's your responsibility in your local church. Number 3 is that be financially committed. Financially committed. Your money must enter what's going on there. As early as I was 15, 16 years old, I made this my habit. There's a building project, I put my money, my 500. I put my 200 naira. I was not earning. People give me money, so I give out of it. Make sure that your money is part of what is going on in your local church. You must be committed financially at your own level. At your own level. At your own level. I have 2 more to go. Number 4. Help spread the word. Help spread the word. Help spread the word. Share flyers of your church. You cannot be a member of a church and be ashamed to be a member of your church. If you are ashamed to be a member of the church, then don't be in that church. Do you hear me this morning? You are ashamed to be a member of your church, then don't be a member of your church. Whatever flyer they share, share. Messages, share. Broadcast, share. Podcast, snippet, share. It's our responsibility to share the word. Finally, always pray for the pastor. Pray for the pastor and the leaders. Pray for your HODs. Pray for the head of departments of your church. Pray for the pastor. Pray for his wife. Pray for all the leadership. It's very important. You know why? Once you have said that this is my local church, you have submitted to the local church that this is my local church. If your pastor misses it, there's a chance that you will miss it. If he teaches wrong, you will hear wrong. You will grow on the wrong thing. So pray for the pastor. Pray for your pastor. Pray for your pastor. Pray for your pastor.